F.O.B. Venus **** F.O.B. Venus by Nelson S. Bond. Lancelot Biggs was perhaps the worst second mate Captain Hansen had ever shipped, and he was convinced of it when he ruined their cargo. But how dumb a man is, may sometimes be a matter of opinion. Transcriber's note: this text was produced from Fantastic Adventures, November 1939. Extensive research did not uncover any evidence that the U.S. copyright on this publication was renewed. Something had gone a little haywire with my bug, and I had just repaired it and was CQing on the 20 band when the door opened and Captain Hansen walked in. Naturally, I was surprised. We were only 4 hours out of the Venus H layer, and I hadn't expected any visitors, least of all the skipper. But he plunked himself down in the best chair and said, "Sparks, look at me. What do you see?" That gave me a jolt. Even the best of them make the old dipsado once in a while, but I never thought I'd live to see the day when Captain Hansen went space nutty. He'd been with the corporation, man and boy, for more than 30 years now, and had never spent a day in dry dock. I reached behind me cautiously and said in as soothing a voice as I could muster, "Why, I see a very nice man, Captain. Now, just you sit quiet for a minute." "I've got to stop being a damned fool, Sparks," said the skipper wearily, "and put down that monkey wrench. I'm not slipping my graphs yet. I'm just asking you a simple question. What do you see?" I said, "Is it facts you're after, Cap, or am I allowed poetic license?" "If it's facts, I see a swell, slightly grey-haired guy in his middle 50s who's been through the mill, knows space like a book, and—" "Wrong," said Hansen. "Sparks, all radiomen are dumb. I guess that's why they're radiomen. What you see before you is a broken man. A man sadly buffeted by fate and the dread clutch of circumstances. Not to mention meddlesome vice presidents. This time I got it." "Biggs?" I said. "Yes, Sparks. Biggs. Now tell me, man to man, what did I ever do to deserve Biggs? He had me there. Being the skipper of the Saturn is not what I'd call an easy job under the best of conditions. The Saturn is the oldest space lugger still doing active duty on corporation runs. She was built way back there before the turn of the century. For the past 10 or 12 years, she had been on freight service, having been judged unfit for passenger duty by the SSCB, Space Safety Control Board. To make matters worse, while we were taking on cargo at Sun City Spaceport, the skipper had been called into the company offices. When he came out again, he had this Biggs in tow. Biggs was tall. Biggs was lanky and gangly and all the other adjectives you can think of that mean a guy's Adam's apple sticks out. He was overflowing at the mouth with a great big grin, and he was as dumb as they make 'em. He had his third mate's papers, and was entitled to be known as Mr. Biggs, the Mr. being a nice camouflage for his real name, Lancelot. But Biggs was the nephew of crusty old Prendergast Biggs, first vice president of the corporation. So there was nothing the skipper could do but gulp and say, "Very good," when they assigned Biggs to the Saturn. There was nothing to prevent him from hoping Biggs would stumble over his suitcases and bust his scrawny neck, but Biggs didn't do it. He was awkward enough to stumble, but lucky enough to fall on a cushion if he did. I said gently, "What's he up to now, Captain?" "What isn't he up to?" groaned the skipper. "First, he said he could handle the graphs when we broke out of Venus Clutch. So, oh. I said, he did that, did he?" "Stop rubbing your head and feeling sorry for yourself," said Hansen. "You got off lucky. Chief Garrity is nursing 2 black eyes. One of the wipers has a busted arm. Everybody on the ship went floating off to the ceiling, same as you did." "Anything else?" I asked. "Everything else," snorted Hansen. While we were all scrambling around in midair, Biggs made a grab for the hand controls. He got the manual deflector by mistake. Todd has just finished shaping the course revision. We're 0.07 degrees off course now, almost 300,000 miles. We've got to up revs and waste fuel to get back, or we'll report into Earth a day late. And you know what that means." Sure, I knew what that meant. Cap on the carpet before the board, the rest of us sitting around chewing our fingernails, wondering whether they'd yank the Saturn off the Venus run. "Well, what are you going to do about him?" I asked. "What can I do?" "There's always the airlock," I suggested. "Nobody would ever blame you." "This ain't no time to be funny, Sparks," complained the skipper. "This is a serious problem. We've got a valuable cargo of meikle root and clab beans to take into New York. But if that guy messes up our flight anymore," he shook his head dolefully. I scratched mine. Then I got a brilliant idea. "Cargo," I said. "There's your answer, Captain." "I'm listening," said Hansen. "Put Biggs in charge of the cargo. That way he'll be down in the hold throughout the trip. He won't be up in the control turret to bother you. And there's nothing he can do down there that'll hurt anybody." "But that's the supercargo's job," frowned the skipper. "Biggs knows that." "Sure. But Harkis will play along with you. Tell him to let on he's sick. Give him a vacation for this trip. He deserves it, anyway. Then it's logical enough to put Biggs on special duty below." The skipper grinned. "Sparks, I take it back what I said about radiomen. I think you got something there." "Then you'll do it." Immediately, said Hansen, rising, "if not sooner." So that was that. That night my relief came on duty, and I went down to the mess hall to eat whatever I could stomach of Slop's slumgullion. First person I met up with was Mr. Lancelot Biggs himself. "Hello, Sparks," he said. "Hello, yourself," I answered. "What are you doing at this mess?" "Thought you ate at the skipper's hour." I did until now, he grinned. Harkis was taken ill this afternoon, and the skipper put me on emergency duty in his place. Is that so? I said, looking as surprised as possible. Well, that's quite a job. Lot of responsibility, you know. That cargo's valuable. I had to grin at the way his lean face sobered. I realize that, Sparks. I'm devoting a lot of thought to the job, too. You know, I'm a bit of an experimenter, and it seems to me, one of the mess boys brought on my chow then, and I didn't listen to the rest of his chatter. Which was a sad mistake. If I had listened, I would have been able to warn Captain Hansen that trouble was on the way. I think it was about the third day out that I began to smell those smells. Yes, I know it was the third day, because I'd just contacted Joe Marlowe on Luna 3, giving him declination and cruising speed of the Saturn. I thought it was funny, but guessed it would go away. It didn't. It got worse. Finally, on the fifth day, I decided to do something. There's nothing like meeting trouble halfway. I was just on my way from the radio room to the control turret when I bumped smack into Captain Hansen. It was a head-on collision, but the skipper's OOF took longer than mine, so I got to talk first. Listen here, I yelled, I've had about as much of this rickety old tub as I'm going to stand. If you can't put a stop to those stink-slops makes in the galley, Hansen gave me a look that would wilt lettuce. I don't want no trouble with you, Sparks, was his comeback. I been smellin' those smells, too. That's what I was aimin' to ask you about. Have you been foolin' around with some of them chemical experiments of your'n? I have not, I informed him loftily. And besides, while chemicals may stink sometimes, they don't ever give out a smell like the butt of an overripe cabbage. Except perhaps some of the sulfur compounds. Then I stared at him. I'm not kidding. I think those smells are coming up out of the galley. The skipper groaned softly. Trouble. Nothing but trouble. It ain't enough I'm supposed to shuttle this barge between Earth and Mars. Now I got smells to worry about, too. Well, come on. Let's look. We went down to the galley. Slops was stirring something in a bowl. I took one look and shuddered. Tapioca, again. And don't tell me you're not supposed to stir tapioca. I know it. Tell Slops. Then the skipper loosed his blast. Okay, Slops, he snarled. We give up. Where'd you hide it? Slops looked puzzled. Hide what? I didn't hide nothing. What is this, a game? Sure, I chinned in. It's called Sniff the Atmosphere. You play it by pressing your thumb and forefinger to your nostrils. Then you try to guess what died. Quiet, Sparks, roared the skipper. Then, to the cook, well, Slops. Slops shrugged. I ain't done nothing, he protested. I ain't hid nothing, and I ain't smelled nothing. Now I got a meal on the fire. Go away and leave me alone. The skipper looked at me, and I stared back at him. Both of us realized the same thing at the same time. Slops wasn't lying. The smell wasn't as bad here as it had been up deck. Hansen scratched his head. He said, suspiciously, "Sparks, are you sure you ain't been mixin' chemicals?" "I'll swear it," I told him, on a pile of logbooks. That smell came from, hey. What else beside the galley lies beneath my room and the control turret? "I'm a cook," said Slops, still stirring the tapioca, "not a blueprint." "Don't ask me." "Shut up," snapped Captain Hansen. "He ain't asking you." "Let's see, Sparks. There's the storage closet, the reservoir, the refrigeration tanks, and the—" His eyes widened suddenly, fearfully. "Sparks," he husked. "Yes." "The vegetable hold." Man, that was it. The minute he said it, I knew. The vegetable hold, and Biggs in charge. We hightailed it for the nearest ramp. The minute we turned down the corridor, the smell got worse. Hansen blasted down the aisle like a rogue asteroid, with me trailing along behind. We hit the door, rammed it open. Biggs was in there. The darned fool was standing in there dressed in a bulger, calmly spraying the bins of meikle root and clab with a hose. He turned as we entered and his eyes lighted behind the quartzite. His audiophone clacked pleasantly. "Hello," he said. "Is there anything wrong?" "Anything wrong?" bellowed Captain Hansen. "He asks if there's anything wrong. That suit. And that hose." The skipper's face was turning purple. "And this heat." "I turned off the refrigerating unit," clacked Biggs pleasantly. "You see, I had a theory that since the climate of Venus is warm and moist, it would be better for the cargo if I attempted to simulate its normal conditions of growth. So and the suit," roared Hansen. "Why the bulger?" Biggs moved his hands deprecatingly. "Why, possible infection, you know. I didn't want to expose the vegetables to any organisms, infect, moisture, heat." Captain Hansen gave up. He buried his face in his hands. "Tell him, Sparks. Tell him what he's doing." I said, "Listen, Biggs, your theory is no good. Clab and meikle have to be kept in a cool, dry atmosphere or they rot. As a matter of fact, they are rotten. That's why the captain and I came down here, to investigate the smell. If you weren't wearing a bulger you'd notice it yourself." "Smell," said Biggs. "Why, now, come to think of it, I have noticed a curious odor about the ship from time to time. But I thought it was rats." "Rats? On a spaceship? Imagine." That was the last straw for Hansen. He'd been trying, and trying hard. But now he exploded. "Biggs," he roared, "you've ruined this cargo. Now you're relieved from your command. But before you report to your quarters, I want every bit of this mess cleaned up. And I mean every last bit, understand? Junk it. Clear it out. Biggs faltered, but, Captain, I only tried to, you heard me. The skipper wheeled, fiery with wrath, and strode to the doorway. I hurried after him. I whispered in his ear, take it easy, Captain. He's the Vice President's nephew. Maybe you ought to go slow. Slow, groaned the skipper. A $50,000 cargo ruined, and you tell me to go slow. I'll see that idiotic son of a space wrangler frying in chaos. I'll blast him out of space if I'm blacklisted for it. I said nothing more. What was there to say? $50,000 worth of cargo rotting in the hold. The board would love that. That was all until the next morning. The next morning I was on the bridge when Captain Hansen had a visitor. Garrity, the chief engineer. Garrity never came to the bridge. So I knew, the minute I saw him, that something was vitally wrong. It was. Garrity's first words made that clear. He glared at the skipper accusingly from eyes that were still faintly purpled. Captain Hansen, he exploded. Would you be so kind as to tell me where I can find my Ferenzi jars? Hansen said, Ferenzi jars? What are you talking about, Chief? You'll be knowing what a Ferenzi jar is, no doubt, said Garrity caustically. T's a lead container for battery solution. Yesterday there were 30 of them in the storeroom. Today there are only a half dozen left. Hansen said pettishly, now, Chief, be kind enough to conduct your own search for the jars. I don't know anything about them. If you can't watch your own equipment, don't complain to me about it. I'm complaining to you, sir, said the chief, for the very simple reason that 'twas one of your men who removed them from the locker. Your third mate, Mr. Biggs. Biggs, said Hansen. Biggs. His face reddened. He walked to the intercommunication unit, jabbed the button that connected with Biggs' quarters. Mr. Biggs, he yelped, Chief Garrity is up here in the turret asking about 24 lead containers that disappeared strangely from his equipment locker. Do you know anything about? The diaphragm clacked an answer. Hansen started. His eyes bulged. He yelled, what? Again some metallic buzzing. This time Hansen didn't try to answer. He tottered away from the phone. Gee Garrity, he faltered, will you be needin' the forensis before we make port? Well, T's not exactly vital, admitted Garrity. But, why? Hansen made a weak gesture. Because they're out there. What? I said. Outside the ship. How come? Why? Hansen's eyes were haunted. Biggs, he said in a hollow voice, thought they were garbage cans. He used them to dispose of the rotten cargo. Well, there wasn't any danger of the forensis getting lost, anyway. But do you know I even had to point that out to Mr. Biggs? Yes. That night I got a personal message for him, and I took it down to his cabin. Being confined to quarters, he was lonely. He looked so abject that I felt sorry for him, and lingered to talk for a while. "I guess you think I'm a frightful dummy, Sparks," he said ruefully. "And I know Captain Hansen thinks so. But this is my first flight, you know. And nobody ever told me what to use for garbage pails. Look, Biggs," I told him, "there's no need for garbage pails in space. You can't just dump things out the airlock and expect to get rid of them." But Captain Hansen said to junk the spoiled vegetables. Junk. Not dump. They should have been thrown into the incinerator. You see, anything tossed out of the Saturn in free space just follows along with the ship. I grinned. I'd hate to be one of the spaceport attendants on Earth when the Saturn comes in surrounded by 24 lead satellites full of garbage. He picked me up on that one quick as a flash. But they won't be with us when we land, Sparks. As soon as we hit Earth's atmosphere, the friction will destroy the forensics and their contents. I whistled softly. By golly, you're right. I clean forgot about that, and Hansen was so sore, he forgot it, too. That means we have to get those containers back into the ship before we hit the tropo, or we're going to lose a couple $100 worth of equipment. Biggs said meekly, I'll be glad to go out and reclaim them, Sparks. Can you fix it up with the skipper? I'll try, I told him. So the next day I told Hansen about it. The captain yanked his lower lip thoughtfully and agreed. Let him do it. That's better than giving him a free ride to Earth. And maybe he'll slip into the rocket blasts. I passed the order on to Biggs, then went back to the radio room. Joe Marlowe was calling me from Luna 3. And what he had to say drove all other thoughts from my mind. His message came right from corporation headquarters. Please report, it said, exact amount and probable value of cargo. Must have immediate reply. I shot through an OK and passed the message up to the skipper. Then, my curiosity aroused, I contacted Joe on our private conversation band and asked him how come and why. He answered cautiously. Stock market taking nosedive in New York, but he told me. Corporation bonds fading. Need this cargo badly. Boy, there was bad news. It was a private message, but I figured the old man ought to know it. So when he came in I passed it along. He stared at me. Hell's bells, Sparks. Then in that case, I can't send this. This was the message he had intended to relay. It said, succinctly, cargo ruined. Value 0. If you do, I told him, we'll all be studying the want ads as soon as we hit port. Stock markets are screwy. This can't be a bad panic, or a $50,000 cargo wouldn't be that important. But if the corporation's under suspicion, and they learn the Saturn's cargo is worthless, what will we do then? Stall, I suggested. Maybe by the time we get in, the situation will be cleared up. So we framed a message that wouldn't upset the apple cart too soon. It said, value of cargo estimated at Sun City Spaceport as $50,000. And that was true enough. Biggs, with his unerring faculty for selecting the wrong moment, chose this time to come bouncing into my radio room. He had taken off his quartzite headpiece, but he was still wearing his bulger, and its deflated folds hung around him like the poorly draped carcass of a Venusian mammoth. He said, "Hey, Sparks, have you got a book on energy and radiation?" "Help yourself," I said, pointing to my bookcase. "Why, what's the sudden excitement?" "I've been thinking," he began, "that maybe Captain Hansen let out a blat like an angry lion." "Mr. Biggs, I thought you were reclaiming those forensic jars." "Yes, sir. I was. I mean, I am. But, never mind the buts. Get back to work." "Why, yes, sir." Biggs saluted meekly, tossed me a grateful glance. "Thanks, Sparks. I've got an idea, and if I'm right, get out, Biggs," roared the skipper. "Yes, sir." Biggs backed out hastily. He was thumbing the pages as he disappeared. Hansen yanked his lower lip angrily. "The corporation goes busted. The Saturn goes under the hammer. We're all out of jobs. And that insane young whippersnapper wants to play school." He seemed mighty excited about something I said. "He'll be worse than that," promised the skipper, "if he doesn't get those jars back on board." All this, to get biblical about it, took place on the 7th day. The Saturn is a 10-day freighter. So we had 3 more days of headaches before us till we slipped into New York Spaceport. They were 3 days of headaches, too. The skipper and I spent most of our time hanging over the radio, watching the progress of the stock market slump in New York. We hoped the situation would ease up so that our coming in with a zero cargo wouldn't make any difference, but no such luck. Somehow the rumor had gotten around that the Saturn's cargo would not be of sufficient value to keep the corporation in the blue. And the Wall Street wolves were closing in, getting ready to snap if the rumor were true. In the meantime, our stupid friend, Biggs, was taking a hell of a long time to reclaim those forensics. It's really not a hard job, you know. All he had to do was slip out through the airlock, throw a grapple around each jar, and bring it in. But he seemed to be as awkward at this as at every other job he had ever attempted. On an off period, I went down to watch him once. I found he'd thrown grapples around the jars, but had not brought a single one into the airlock yet. Biggs was in a frightful mess, trying to throw grapples around the jars. I told him, "You'd better get a wiggle on, Biggs. We hit the tropo tomorrow. If those things get into the atmosphere, you'll be able to pour them into the airlock." "I know," he said abstractedly, "but I'm not quite ready to, Sparks. According to that book you lent me, cosmic rays go down to 1/100,000 angstrom units. That's right, I told him. That means they are more than 10 times as intense as gamma rays. Right again. Why? What's the payoff? That's what I'm trying to find out, he said strangely. He finished tying a loop around one of the jars, pushed himself free and toward the airlock. You want me to help you drag him in now? I asked. No thanks, Sparks. I think we'll leave them out till tomorrow, he said. But Captain Hansen, I began. Tomorrow. After all, I'm just a radio man, I shrugged. It's your funeral, I said. He got them inside the next day. I saw them lying in the corridor beside the airlock, covered with a strip of tarpaulin. And he got them in just in time, too, for about an hour later we hit the heaviside layer. We set out our ampy and eased through all right. From there on, it was just an easy coast to Earth. We threw out our lug sails, the retractable metal fins which give space luggers their name, and put on the power brakes. In a couple of hours we were settling into our hangar off New York Spaceport. I closed out my key and locked the radio room. There was nothing more I could do now. So I went up to the control turret and found Captain Hansen gnawing the fingernail of his index finger down to the second joint. Well, Captain, I said. Any late news, Sparks? He demanded anxiously. I shook my head. Only bad news. The board's sending over their appraisers immediately. He said wearily, well, we did our best. If it hadn't been for that crazy Biggs, we'd still have our cargo. But as it is, I wonder if international straight-up planes need any radio operators. I said gloomily. We were grounded now. As we walked down the corridor the motors went off, and I could hear the hiss of the airlock opening. We reached the port just as the committee entered. Doc Challenger was there, and Colonel Brophy, and old Prendergast Biggs himself. I knew, then, that things were in a bad state, or all the big bugs would not have come out. Challenger stepped forward, beaming. Happy landing, Captain, he chortled. I need not tell you how glad we are you came in safely. We've been experiencing bad times in New York, sir, bad times. But everything's all right now. Hansen said, yes, sir. But I've got something to tell you, sir, later, Captain, later. First we must take up this cargo question. Approximately $50,000 worth of Meikle and Clab, is that right? We have our appraisers here. If your estimate is right, the corporation will weather this, mild storm. Hansen coughed nervously. He hedged. Well, now, you see, about that there cargo, you never saw three faces lose their smiles so suddenly. There was stony silence for a minute. Then Colonel Brophy said in a deep voice, Captain Hansen, there's nothing wrong in your estimate of the cargo's value, is there? No, sir. I mean the estimate was right, but it was right here that young Lancelot Biggs interrupted. Excuse me, gentlemen, he said, but I don't quite understand. Is it important that we land a cargo of Clab and Meikle? Captain Hansen whirled on him. Biggs, he snapped sternly. Then he turned to old Prendergast Biggs. Sir, he said, I've delayed telling this as long as possible. But now I must tell you. This precious nephew of yours, the old man smiled fatuously. Yes, yes, Captain Hansen. A fine lad, isn't he? What was it you were starting to say, Lancelot? I grabbed Hansen's arm. I thought he was going to blow his tubes and hit somebody right then and there. But before he got a chance, Lancelot Biggs was talking again. To the captain. Captain Hansen, he said seriously, I wish you'd told me this before. I didn't realize that our cargo was so important. Then he turned to the committee. I hope you will not be surprised to learn, gentlemen, that our cargo is not vegetable. At the last minute, Captain Hansen decided to make a change. Hansen's face turned white. He squawked, "What? Are you trying to shift the blame to?" Biggs' voice drowned out his protest. And so, gentlemen, we have placed the cargo right here for your inspection. Look. With a swift motion he tore the tarpaulin off the Ferenzi jars. I looked, and gulped. They were the same jars, all right. Only different. They were no longer a dull, whitish metal. They were a glinting copper color. Biggs patted one of them affectionately. Ask your appraisers to estimate the value of these, gentlemen. I think they'll find their value to be approximately $250,000. These are pure gold. It's a good thing I was holding on to Captain Hansen's arm. For just as the committee was exclaiming, "Excellent! Excellent trading, Captain Hansen," the skipper's nerves gave out. He collapsed like a punctured bulger. I remember shouting, "Water! Water, somebody!" Then I passed out, too. Afterward, the three of us were alone in the turret. And Hansen was asking, "But how, Biggs? I don't get it at all. How in blazes did it happen?" Biggs blushed and looked uncomfortable. "Why, it's pretty obvious when you come to analyze it, Captain. I can't understand how it is that no one ever discovered it before, in 20 years of space travel. But perhaps it's because ships and bulgers are made of permalloy instead of lead. Or it may be that some enzyme secreted by the rotten vegetables acted as a catalyst. Lab workers will have to study that. You're still not telling us what happened. Don't you know? It was transmutation, induced in the lead Ferenzi jars by the action of cosmic rays. 1. Captain Hansen said in an awed tone. Exposure to cosmic rays done that. Yes. Artificial transmutations were caused way back in the early 20th century through bombardment with gamma rays. and cosmic rays are more than 10 times as short as gammas. I began to suspect something strange was happening to the Ferenczi jars when I first went out to gather them in. Their color had changed slightly, and their exterior was rather more granular. That's why I came in to borrow Sparks' book on radiation. What I saw convinced me that the lead was being transmuted, was then in the mesolead stage, approximately an isotope of thallium. I decided to wait and see if the transmutation would continue. Hansen wiped his hand across his forehead. Suppose there'd been more time. And suppose then the transmutation had gone on a step farther. What then? Well, now, there's an interesting question. The next element down the ladder is platinum. 2. It's quite possible that. Wait a minute, interrupted the skipper. Did you say platinum? Yes. Why? Nothing. That is, nothing much. The skipper rose and strode to the intercommunicating phone. Ross, he yelled. Listen, I want you to get this crate ready to roll again. We're taking off for Venus first thing in the morning. Hey, Ross. Send to the warehouse for about 5, no, make it 6, dozen Ferenczi jars. Yeah, Ferenczi jars, I said. And Ross, get the biggest ones they got. The corporation ain't found it out yet, but we're going into the transmuting business. And Mr. Biggs comes aboard as first mate. 1. Lead has an atomic weight of 207 plus, and its atomic number is 82. This atomic number corresponds to its net positive nuclear charge. Gold, on the other hand, has an atomic weight of 197, with an atomic number of 79. The loss of 2 alpha particles and the loss of a single beta particle in a molecule of lead causes that molecule to become an isotopal molecule of gold, with an atomic number 79, and the atomic weight of 199. For all practical commercial purposes, this is the same as true gold. Author 2. Platinum has a weight of 195 plus, and a net positive nuclear charge of 78. Author ***** End of the Project Gutenberg ebook F.O.B. Venus ***** Updated editions will replace the previous one, the old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start. Full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works. By using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works 1.0. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e. Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. 1.e.6 You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark symbol website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7 Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8 You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark symbol license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol works. 1.e.9 If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1 Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the Foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the Foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark symbol work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark symbol. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark symbol's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark symbol and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, UT 84116. 801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg Trademark Symbol Electronic Works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark symbol concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark symbol ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the US unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark symbol, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks.